Linda Scott joins us now to talk about how this has all gone down for local government, in particular Corey Bernardi, about what it means for freedom. Let's get into all of this now. Linda, what's the money picture like for local government? Did you get the money that your councils have so richly asked for and I think deserve?
Well, look, thanks for being a great supporter of local government. This is a solid budget for us tonight. 537 councils around the nation sharing in $3.1 billion in federal assistance grants. That's about $100 million more than we received last financial year and helps us to ensure we can keep employing those 200,000 Australians in almost every corner of the nation and providing all those local services. We also really welcomed the Roads to Recovery funding. Our local roads, as everybody in the nation knows, are in a really poor state of repair. And so the additional $500 million coming through the Roads to Recovery program, as well as the South Australian Supplementary Roads funding, $60 million over 3 years, means local governments can invest in all our potholed roads in a way that we just absolutely could not do without that federal funding. The big issue for us tonight is the grant funding. We saw, sadly, that the local community infrastructure funding, that's the funding for our libraries and our pools, that grant program is not continuing on into the future. We're disappointed about that. Instead, the federal government has announced some new funding programs. They're going to be merit-based, so councils will have to apply for them, but they're going to allow us to think about how we fund these infrastructure projects in our regions, and in tonight's budget announcement also in our urban and metropolitan areas. So they're very good announcements for us. We look forward to working with the government through National Cabinet and all those other processes on the details.
Corey, you must be pleased that the great Ponzi scheme that is the Australian budget continues. When all else fails, add more people. The plan in the next 2 years is more than 700,000 people. Last time I checked, there's not that many places for rent, but apparently this will all magically change.
Oh, everything's going to magically change, and we should start by putting signs up at all the immigration ports. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Because I think this budget is a complete admission of defeat, Paul. I mean, basically, right, we can't rely on anything Treasury points out, and my bet is the surplus will actually be bigger in 2 months' time than the $4 billion put forward. But we've baked in a whole bunch of handouts, record handouts to people, whether they're deserving or not, but they're all out there still complaining that it's not enough for them, including Linda now, who's got $100 million for local government to employ 200,000 people around the country. And she's saying, oh, you know, we can't put the potholes in the roads and they haven't given us enough here. I bet you not one ratepayer will be paying less in local government taxes as a result of this extra money. It is just a spendathon, Paul. We've got deficits as far as the eye can see. That's never going to change. You've got governments attacking the golden goose that's made this slim deficit or surplus possible, the mining industry. You're giving them $2 billion to an experimental hydrogen program, which is backed by billionaires who don't want to put their own cash into it. You can just go on and on and on. This is a disaster budget for Australia because we're going to live with this for generations to come. They've given up any hope of really any fiscal sobriety. There's too few people paying taxes in this country. And you know, the ABC did a story tonight, Paul, I'll finish on this. ABC did a story tonight on JobSeeker. There's 1 million people on JobSeeker, or the dole as they called it in this country, and yet businesses close at lunchtime, they can't get staff. Every backpacker in this country can get a job somehow. Every Indian student can get a job somehow, but we've got 1 million people on JobSeeker who are unable to work. And then we've got another 5 million on some sort of disability benefit. This country is cooked.